If you want to feel something stir inside you, you're in the right place. This video holds a powerful lesson about humanity. If you truly believe in karma, watching, especially for what happens at the end, it will warm your heart. Now let's listen to the heartwarming story of a homeless man. It was a cold autumn morning in the heart of the city. The air was crisp, and the streets were already bustling with people rushing to work. Inside a small, cozy café, customers stood in line, chatting or scrolling through their phones while waiting for their orders. Among them stood a man who didn't quite fit in, a homeless man, his clothes worn and ragged, his hair unkempt, and his face lined with the weight of hardship. Despite his rough appearance, he stood patiently, clutching a few crumpled dollar bills in his hands. He counted them carefully before stepping up to the counter. "Just a small black coffee, please," his voice soft yet firm. The barista hesitated for a moment, but then nodded, taking the money. He could have used that money for food, shelter, or anything else. But today, he chose coffee. As he waited for his drink, he didn't notice that someone in the cafe was watching him closely. The homeless man took his coffee with a quiet "thank you" and turned to find a seat. Instead of sitting down to enjoy it himself, he did something that caught the attention of a well-dressed businessman sitting in the corner. The man walked towards the cafe entrance, where another homeless person sat shivering on the sidewalk. Without hesitation, he knelt down and offered the cup of coffee to the man sitting on the ground. "Here, buddy. Stay warm." The well-dressed man took a deep breath and stood up. He walked over to the homeless man, who had just given away the only thing he had bought for himself. The well-dressed man took a deep breath and stood up. He walked over to the homeless man, who had just given away the only thing he had bought for himself. "Excuse me," the businessman said. The homeless man looked up, surprised. He wasn't used to people talking to him, at least not kindly. "I saw what you did," the businessman continued. "You didn't have much, yet you gave what little you had to help someone else." The homeless man shrugged. "I know what it's like to be in his shoes," he said simply. "A warm drink can make a difference on a cold day." The businessman nodded slowly. "Would you mind sitting down with me for a moment?" The homeless man hesitated but then nodded. No one had invited him to sit down in a long time. As they sat, the businessman signaled to the barista and ordered 2 fresh meals and 2 hot coffees. For the first time in a long time, the homeless man had a real meal in front of him. He looked at the businessman cautiously. "Why are you doing this?" The businessman smiled. "Because years ago someone did the same for me." The homeless man's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" The businessman took a sip of his coffee and sighed. "I wasn't always in this suit. I know what it's like to have nothing." The businessman leaned forward, his voice calm but sincere. "A long time ago, I lost everything. I was homeless for nearly a year. People ignored me, avoided eye contact, and treated me like I didn't exist, except for one person, an old man at a diner. He saw me, bought me a coffee, and gave me advice that changed my life." The homeless man listened carefully, gripping his cup of coffee. "He told me, no matter how little you have, always share what you can. Kindness finds its way back." There was a long pause. "That man was you, wasn't it?" The homeless man's breath caught in his throat. Memories flooded back. Years ago, he had given coffee to a struggling young man sitting outside a diner. He never thought he would see him again. "That was you?" he whispered. The businessman nodded. "And today, I finally got the chance to repay you." Tears welled in the homeless man's eyes. He wiped them away quickly, but the weight of the moment settled between them. For years, he thought his life had been meaningless, but today, he realized that even the smallest acts of kindness can echo through time. The businessman reached into his pocket and pulled out a key. "I run a company now," he said. "I have a small apartment available. It's yours if you want it. A fresh start." The homeless man's hands trembled. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes." The businessman smiled. The cafe had gone quiet. Other customers who had overheard the conversation watched with admiration. A few even wiped away tears. The homeless man finally nodded, his voice barely a whisper. Yes, for the first time in a long time, he had hope. As they walked out of the cafe together, the businessman put a reassuring hand on the homeless man's shoulder. "Come on," he said. "Let's get you home." If this story moved you, like this video. Comment your thoughts below. How do small acts of kindness change lives? Subscribe for more heartwarming and inspiring true stories. A single cup of coffee can change a life. Be kind, because you never know who's watching. See you in the next story.